to waste any time where we could be talking to you. I'm sure you're thrilled about that, but I do have more family history stuff to share, so I thought I'd take a minute to do that. I was watching a Genealogy Roadshow not too long ago. It's a PBS show, and we also like the Find Your Roots is on PBS, and Who Do You Think You Are? I think that's on Lifetime or one of those channels. Anyways, we find all of that fascinating and helpful too. The ways they find people have helped me. So I was watching a Genealogy Roadshow, and one of the guys, and it was actually out in New Mexico, and the guest, they do, one of the things I like about Genealogy Roadshow is they do regular folk. The other two shows, Who Do You Think You Are and Find Your Roots, are about celebrities, which is great. That helps me too, but I really like the regular people like us. And so they had a guy they were helping in Albuquerque, and he was part of the Stout family, and he wanted to know more about his ancestry, obviously, but he could only get back 4 generations, so they helped him go farther back. And the professional is telling him about this family history story, and this particular grandmother, for him it was a 7th grade grandmother. I started to think, that story sounds really familiar. So I went to my family history, and sure enough, that same person is my 8th grade grandmother. So that guy and Sandy and I are a generation apart, but we have the same great grandmother down the line. But it was a fascinating story, and I don't think I paid that good of attention while I was doing research to read all of it. I knew it sounded familiar, but when I heard the professional tell the story, it was just really, really good. And it was about a woman who came to America in about 1640, and her name was Penelope, and she came here with her husband. I think his name was Richard. Yeah, Richard Stout. And they came here from Amsterdam, and they came here to New Amsterdam, which is what we now know as New York. And they landed, I actually think they kind of had, I think if I remember the story right, they possibly wrecked off the coast of New Jersey, so they came in to what they hoped was New Amsterdam. It wasn't. Richard Stout was really, really sick, so being the great friends and fellow passengers that those other people were, they left him and his wife behind on the shore and went in search of New Amsterdam. Some local Indians came up and attacked and killed her husband, Penelope's husband, and they mangled her and left her for dead. And sorry, I have to look down because I have to look at notes. But she survived, and she lived in a hollow log for several days until she was rescued by a couple of Indians who obviously weren't part of the band who mutilated her or mangled her body. The Dutch in New Amsterdam eventually heard this story of a young Dutch woman being rescued, and they knew it had to have been Penelope, so they finally went and did the right thing and went and found her and then brought her to New Amsterdam. She ended up, actually, I'm sorry, her first husband was not Richard Stout. Erase that. She met Richard Stout after that, and he became her second husband, so she's Penelope Stout at this point. They ended up going north in New Jersey, and that area is now known as Middletown, New Jersey, and she's known as the mother of Middletown now. So when you go to Middletown, New Jersey, they have all sorts of historical information and plaques and things to her because she helped founded that area. She even has a coin named after her, a Penelope Stout coin. I don't know how old it is. I don't have one, but I did see it on the Genealogy Roadshow. Also, in the 1960s, she made the comic book Ripley's Believe It or Not. Because of that story of surviving being mutilated or mangled by the Indian tribe, and because she lived to be 110 years old, and when she died, she had 502 descendants. Now she has thousands all over the world, of which we are a part of that. So that was really fascinating to me that one of my ancestors ended up as a big story and considered a legendary American on this Genealogy Roadshow, but to also see this guy who's way distant cousin, but to know that we all come from the same woman who made this journey over here. I find that fascinating about doing family history is because had somebody made a different choice, had she decided not to come over here, had she been killed, obviously that would have not worked out well for all of us who descend from her. But just these little tiny choices that seem like not a big deal, or big choices, whatever the case is, because they made choices, we're here in the circumstances that we're in now. So, you know, somebody made a different choice. I don't know if I'd look the same, or I might have different parents, or who knows where I would have ended up, maybe in Europe, which we are profoundly European roots. So we have a tiny, tiny bit of Turkish, believe it or not. We look like we're Turkish, and blonde hair over here, and a tiny, tiny bit of Chickasaw Indian, both less than 1%, but I didn't know that until the last year or so that we had that, so that was fascinating. Other than that, though, we're pretty European, mostly British, some German, some Scottish, and apparently we have a little Norwegian thing going on too. So it's just another story, and Sandy bought, we're going home from our weekly shopping. Sandy bought some more things for a recipe, so we'll probably be back with that.
Okay, hi everybody. We decided to add a little bit to Edie's Family History Edie's Family History story that when we were in the car. So I'm going to share a recipe with you. I've never made this recipe. I have no idea how it's going to turn out, but it sounds good, so we're going to give it a try. It's called two ingredient healthy pancakes, but they also said there are some optional ingredients, so you know, why not? I'm going to try the optionals too. So the first ingredient was 2 mashed bananas, and then the second ingredient is 2 eggs. Do any of you know people who can just crack an egg with one hand and do the whole thing and get it all out with just one hand? I do, and I can't do that. I'd be afraid to try it. Okay, now here's the optional ingredients. Hang on just a second, my recipe went away. Okay, optional ingredients. 2 to 3 tablespoons of, and they say almond meal, but I'm going to use our gluten-free powder, because why would I make a recipe with the same ingredients that it calls for? 1, 2, 3. And then 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder, but I'm going to use cacao powder. And then 1/4 teaspoon, if you want fluffy pancakes, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. And then it says you can use 1/4 cup of fresh berries or chocolate chips, but we like Trader Joe's cacao nibs, as we've said many times before, so I'm going to put in 1/4 cup of those. And then you just stir everything up. Okay, I'm going to finish stirring this up, and then I'll meet you at the stove. Okay, so here we are at the stove. I stirred everything up, and I'm going to try cooking them up and see what happens. I lined I put a layer of organic coconut oil on the bottom of the pan to keep it from sticking. The directions say that you're supposed to let them get light brown on the bottom, but I don't know how I would tell, because The batter's brown because I used all the options. So let's see if that's going to cook up quickly or not. Anyway, all the ingredients in this are really healthy. I mean, there's, as you saw, just bananas are good for you. The eggs, the cacao powder actually has a lot of benefits to it. A lot more than just cocoa powder. Cocoa powder is just processed, and it's processed with alkali, as we've said before. The cacao nibs, did I already say that? Oh, it has the cacao powder and the cacao nibs in it. It's just a really healthy alternative to pancakes if you ever want to try it. And if you do, let us know. And this is taking a little bit to cook, so I won't make you watch a pot of water. Gosh, watch the boiling water boil, or whatever that saying is. And I'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, I fried up all the pancakes, and here they are. I even made a little tiny one for Edie and me to have a taste test. Those are good.
Yeah, these are really good.
There's a banana flavor to them, obviously. It has bananas in it, but that's really good. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
Just one hint, if you decide to make these, I would probably put a light layer of oil in the second batch as well. It tended to stick just a little bit, so I remember when I used to make pancakes, regular pancakes, once you put the oil in, it was usually good for the whole batch, however many times you put in, how many batches you put in the pan. But I would probably just put a light little layer of whatever oil you're going to use before each batch with these. Anyway, they turned out really good.
They're really good.
I really like them. So we'll put the recipe below. If this is something you think you might like, go ahead and give it a try, and then comment below or comment in another video and let us know how you liked it. And in the meantime, have a good day, and we'll be back.